All right, so I want to get things restarted in a new way. I'm finally back in Argentina, and I wanted to really, it's been a crazy summer, and I really want to get deep on this full moon with you guys. So let's talk about the North Node in the science. I've talked about the North Node before, but let's talk about the different combinations in this video. So let's go deep. So to start, and I do need to take notes on this. Excuse me, I know editor hates me for this, but let's talk about if you have, and we're gonna go briefly over each one, right? A little bit, just for you guys to understand. I'm not gonna it's not gonna be like one of those cookbook videos, but so Aries, Libra, right? If you're on that axis of the North Node, so with that one, let's say your North Node's in Aries, right? You are here to learn about assertiveness, and you have to look at where Mars is. That's why I tell everyone, you need to get a natal chart reading to really understand, if you want to understand like the full karmic picture, unless you get astrology yourself. But a lot of times South Node Libras, they can struggle with being assertive, and they can have different challenges in this lifetime that revolve around learning to take their power back, right? And they're very, very good at relating to other people and very diplomatic, right? Naturally, because that's their South Node. But they tend to put other people before themselves. So that is tough, right? And it can make them feel very drained and not take care of themselves enough. So they tend, so they can really lose themselves in relationships as well. And it's not about not having relationships, but it's about not having codependent relationships, right? So the idea of relying too much on other people, in this lifetime, you're meant to rely on yourself more and be independent. And, also Aries is very physical, full of energy. So, you got to take good care of your body and sort of know that it's okay to, you don't have to be like a crazy person, but just having a balance, right? Because in past lives, you've probably been plagued by that. And then if we go the opposite direction with Libra to Aries, that gives an energy of someone who, or I guess of Aries to Libra, excuse me, that gives the energy of someone who needs to learn these opposite lessons, right? About being able to, they are very assertive. They need to, become better with diplomacy, become better with compromise, become better at being less selfish potentially, right? More fair, more harmonious, thinking about the other side of the story, right? The other person's angle, not just their own. Not to say that every person with this is a selfish POS, no. But there's some level where a lot of people I've noticed with this that get readings from me, they have a karmic tendency of being a little bit of a loner in the sense like they have to learn patience, right? And yeah, just like any North Node air sign, it's the communication ability, right? So yeah, I think that committed relationships are where big growth is for North Node in Libra. So that's kind of, I'm just writing these down. So yeah, so that's, but it's not easy. So, learning that you don't have to do everything on your own, right? That it does take a level of compromise in relationships to make things work. And just getting past that impatience and impulsiveness that leads that individual to kind of say F it with a lot of things, right? And it can also be, like listening to other people and I've seen a lot of people with that kind of be like the lone wolf type energy, right? So, let's see. So next, so I guess we're going in this order. So next we're going to talk about Taurus North Node and Scorpio South Node. So I'm doing that correct, right? Yeah. So a Taurus North Node in many ways is here to heal and to have a more peaceful. So look where your Venus is as well. But you know, a Venus ruled North Node. A lot of times with the South Node Scorpio, they've come into this lifetime with a lot of intense trauma or drama or whatever. So it's like this lifetime, it's almost like, okay, let's have like a relax. Let's relax for one, right? Let me grab this actually real quick. So let's have one relaxing lifetime, or not just one, but you know, let's calm things down a bit. They've been too intense, blah blah blah. So besides that, I think that the North Node in Taurus, they have to, like, one thing I've really noticed is that there's that tendency to get bored of life when there's no drama in it, because they're so familiar with crisis that they can unconsciously seek it out, right? And you know, it's also, Taurus is a grounded sign, so it's about becoming grounded in your own energy, in yourself, in the physical world, right? So as you get older, as a Taurus North Node, as they grow in the North Node, you learn to rely on yourself more, rather than Scorpio South Node sometimes can follow people or rules too much. So it's really about developing your own set of values, your own self-esteem and stability comes from that, right? So once you really start to rely on yourself and trust yourself, that's when the good things in life start to come. But also, a big thing is learning persistence, self-discipline. Those are traits of Taurus. And so with the Scorpio part, I think that, everything I said is valid. You're trying to create a very stable and safe environment in this lifetime, right? So with Scorpio, right? So this is a lot of people would say this is the toughest North Node placement. And the reason they say that is because North Node towards Scorpio means South Node in Taurus. So it's very likely that someone with this has resisted change in past lives, right? They've resisted this. Scorpionic change is like the death, rebirth, transformation of the soul. So if they have resisted that, it's almost like in this lifetime, oftentimes they get pulled towards, is this even work? It's saying I have no Wi-Fi. Whatever. Hopefully this records. Yeah, so they'll get pulled towards like very unnecessary drama, right? Or not unnecessary drama, excuse me. Like it's like they'll have things in their life. They'll have crises. They'll have different realities of their life that push them towards this growth. So a lot of times the North Node Scorpio, I'll see different aspects, like tough moon aspects, tough sun aspects, right? Different, Pluto or Saturn on the IC, like different, something that shows that their childhood was not usually easy. But the point is that these energies that showed up in these experiences push them towards that need to analyze themselves more, to get deeper into themselves, to let go of what no longer is needed, because they almost needed that karmic kick in the butt, or they wouldn't have made the necessary changes. There's way more I could say about that, but I don't want to make this too long a video. So it's already gonna be pretty long. But anyways, next we have Taurus Gemini North Node. in Sag after. So with Gemini, North Node, once again, it's an air North Node, so it's about learning to communicate. A lot of times people on this axis, there is a lot to do. You really have to look at the whole chart, to be honest, right? Because there's so many factors, right? But oftentimes it does relate a lot with the basics of communication. Some people take this for granted, their ability to communicate in a nonviolent way, but nonviolent or diplomatic way, kind of like that base level communication. Like you see people who are very good at small talk, right? And then you see other people like small talk and just like kind of getting their more mundane point across. And then you have other people who are very, very good at the high philosophical, abstract, those types of concepts, but then they're horrible at the other, right? So they become very misunderstood. So this one is very much about getting your point across. And I think, just being able to connect with others, because and also being an investigator, because sometimes people with this South Node, I've seen South Node Sagittarius people when they're younger just believe sometimes they believe way too much of what they're taught, or their way of thinking, not just what they're taught, but their way of thinking is 100% correct. And it's not just thinking. It's like, for example, I had a girl I was not dating, but pre-dating, never turned into anything, but she was so closed-minded, right? And she had the South Node in Sag. And I realized, there's other factors in her chart, but I realized that a lot of it was because, like, for example, like not wanting to like give my type of music a chance, right? Like, how do you know you're not going to like it? Just, I don't like it. I don't like it. That kind of thing. So when you compound that to all different types of life experiences, let's say it's learning about something like astrology, or learning about something, very like, even if it's like political or worldview wise, geopolitics, you can stay really stuck. So, it's really about learning to listen with either of these two, right? North Nodes. It's learning to listen and kind of find the pieces of the puzzle that are going to help you understand truth, grand truth on a higher level. But through that, you need to like go and make friends with people around you, from different kind of like networking energy, right? Like with people from different walks of life. Not just thinking, I like this person, I'm not going to be able to get any information out of them. No, thinking like, okay, I can get something out of every person, right? I can learn from everyone. So, yeah, and just like with every air North Node, it's being able to see the other side of the coin, the other person's perspective, like the Libra one. And yeah, just getting very good. Like sometimes this South Node in Sag talks, doesn't listen, right? So it's getting good at that too. And yeah, being able to kind of reevaluate your beliefs based on other people's experiences and other people's beliefs. So yeah. And I think like with this one, there's also like people tend to have spent a lot of time in their head. So yeah, it's kind of just like get out their energy, right? And stop being so self-righteous and, yeah, so being able to kind of like be more adaptable, I guess. And then also, yeah, Gemini is about freedom and curiosity. So it's like you're meant to explore. You're meant to be free, So, yeah, so adapt philosophies that will, lead that way. And I think, so with the North Node in Gemini or in Sag, either way, there is a need to, with both of them, the energy can be very scattered. So there's a need to really zoom in on like let's say you're very curious. Let's just say it's like the esoteric, right? And you're trying human design, numerology, astrology, all these things, and you're jack of all trade, master of none. It's very important to like find one or two. Once you found them, then focus. Okay. So now North Node in Sag, South Node in Gemini. So North Node in Sag people obviously, so this is the axis that is probably like that has the most in common. Maybe Leo and Aquarius also, but I think with this one, it's about purpose, and people can really have issues when it comes to settling down and finding their purpose, right? And it's that same energy of the Gemini one where there's that hard time, as a Gemini South node, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to do this, you want to do that. So it's like, what really has meaning? So with Sag, obviously Sagittarius is related to traveling, but I always say traveling physically or traveling metaphorically. So, it's really, really important to know that you have to spread your wings with this North Node, right? And learn to see the bigger picture. I know a lot of South Node Gemini, North Node Sagittarius who constrict themselves, like they have opportunities to travel, they have opportunities to, to make their worldview bigger, and they just don't take it. They just stay in their immediate environment, right? So it's kind of like taking those risks, right? Because when you go to different countries, you even live in different countries, your worldview expands. It's hard to like you expand as a your brain expands, so much expands. It's hard to explain. So I think another part of that is self-belief, right? Because it's Jupiter. So sometimes people with this, I feel like they can kind of, there can be a narrow-mindedness that keeps them, more or less in one place, right? And like I said, with either one, open-mindedness. With if your node's in Sag or Gemini, focusing on being more open-minded. And but yeah, with this one with the Jupiter, there's the added spiritual. It can be religious, but whatever works for you. Growth, and I think a lot of times the South Node and Gemini people, because it's Mercury rule, can trust data more than their intuition, their gut, and that can could have got them in trouble. They can be overthinkers, with a very like cluttered mind, and very good at like seeing the details, but not like the big full picture, like the sitting on the mountaintop picture. So I think it's really about, trusting that gut, and also like the same thing I said with the Gemini one, like less talking, more listening, right? Being willing to be wrong is a huge one, right? Appreciating the different opinions. So I think like a lot of Sag North Nodes can benefit from alone time in nature too, like going on hikes and stuff, and really, really, things that like get you into like that higher level of thinking. Because sometimes when I imagine a South Node Gemini, I just imagine like someone like I don't know, in some kind of like shop, just gossiping about the town gossip, And a lot of times it does give like a very strong attachment to where you grew up, the South Node Gemini, right? So I think my experience with that is that people with this, they often need, even though Gemini is a spontaneous side, sometimes they lack that spontaneity when it comes to their own adventures, and and just kind of going with the flow, just doing things. You have to analyze it so much, right? And like also a lot of times, like as your wisdom grows, so your wisdom and your truth will grow through your experiences. Then it could affect your career. You could be someone who learns a lot, and then you realize, okay, like now I want to align myself with something different. So I've seen that a lot, career changes. But I've definitely seen that struggle to nail down what they want to do. Okay, so now we have Cancer. So a Cancer North Node, very interesting. So Cancer North Node, Capricorn South Node. So these are very karmic ones. A lot of times I see this, and it's interesting when it comes to like gender and kind of how one identifies, and not like in that type of way, but sometimes they can identify more with the opposite gender. A Cancer North Node is someone who is meant to really go into their emotions in this lifetime. Obviously Capricorn is a very ambitious sign, so there can be more of a a masculine take on life, I guess you could say, like a tendency to be more more focused on the external life stuff, right? So in Cancer, it's about nurturing, but not just other people, but yourself. So it's kind of like the mother archetype ruled by the moon. So it's about getting close to yourself, to both you and other people. Because a lot of times South Node in Capricorn people had lots of past lives where they were more alone. And so it could also be linked to a North Node, destiny related to family in some way. But it's kind of like a softening of the soul, right? Because Capricorn can be quite cold sometimes. It can be, it's Saturn. Sometimes it can be kind of emotionless, cold energy, right? So I think like this one, people with this are really trying to learn to go with the flow in life on like an emotional level, like where they can kind of speak from the heart more. And learning to trust people, right? Like there's emotion, like learning, learning that they can kind of, they don't have to only rely on themselves, and So different experiences will pop up. Usually, like there is. It's quite difficult because usually, like the early childhood, there are some difficulties that push the kid to have to grow up quite fast, and it can feel like a fight for survival, really, right? So another area with this one is like not being afraid of relationships. A lot of people with that can kind of have fears of those deep emotional connections. So, and they can like take that energy of the South and Capricorn and be very achievement oriented. So it's really about like, it's not that you're not supposed to have achievements, but it's for focusing on people, in the relationships, and kind of balancing out the two, right? So it's tough because a lot of people with this, they do fear that intimacy, and it does kind of push them towards situations where they get better with that. But like, all of this is in the name of understanding your authentic self better, right? Because it's through these types of situations that you understand, okay, this is who I am, right? Focusing on emotion. And then it's really about like emotional healing, I would say, this one. And another thing is, going from Capricorn to Cancer, it's being, paying attention to your intuition. And because like Capricorn is a very, it's more material. Hi, Mika. So it's like really going within the self. So, okay, then Capricorn North Node. So South Node and Capricorn North Node is, flip that over, right? It's a lot of times I feel like people with this, they are more like I think of like someone who's been too defined by like their family, by their family role. So in this life, they're meant to really take responsibility for their actions and also take what they've learned. A lot of times Cancer can be very, innately intuitive, right? Cancer South Node, and take that out into the world in some way, and make in Capricorn, make the world a better place, right? do something that is gonna add to your life. Now, I think that it's really about becoming an adult. If you think like Capricorn is the mature one, sometimes people with this placement, there can be like the low side would be like playing victim, playing kind of like, afraid of the world and so forth, right? So, yeah, but like in retrospect, it's like sometimes people can, with South Node in Cancer, I've noticed they can be too emotionally based with their decisions. So it's like all about Capricorn is like long range thinking, right? And planning, and then executing plans over the long term. So that's a really big thing with that, right? And I think that through that, you develop self-respect. You know, when you start to, let's say, and this is with North Node and Virgo too, like when you say, okay, I'm going to do this thing, right? And you don't do it, in your psyche, that's creating less respect for yourself. So it's the same thing for this, right? When you stick to plans and you create consistency in your life, and you're not, also like another big thing is like the boundaries too, like not sacrificing your ambitions for for other people, right? Or for the sake of something else. So that's huge. But what can happen is, because people with this are typically, we're so used to taking care of others as children, they can take that same energy into relationships as adults, right? Which can make it hard. And it can also be the same thing of like being taken care of or whatever. So, yeah. I would say, what else? Yeah, I mean, I think that like, just with this axis, there's the idea of like protection, right? And some people, it's just the way it is. Sorry, I have an eye. Ow. Like some people just need, to have their held hand for longer in life, and I know this conditioning makes it sound like, oh, those people are weak or whatever. No, some people it's just their karma, just how their trauma, whatever, right? But a lot of people with this, they will seek that out in partners, or like first in their family and then in their partners. And I've seen this also like come from very, very nurturing families, right? But sometimes it's like the like it was a blessing, but also a curse, because it's like then they go out into the real world and they don't have that, right? Or it doesn't just come like that. So they'll seek that out in other people, that protective shell. But it's really about growing it for themselves, right? So, and then that is another thing that develops self-respect and legitimacy. So, yeah, I think like just not overly depending on other people. That's a big thing with this one, is huge. So, yeah, just taking responsibility, being your own kind of metaphorical yogi or father or whatever, right? And I've seen a lot of people with this who lack a father figure, interestingly, or like a very positive one. And yeah, South Node in Cancer too can be very stuck in the past. So yeah, it's just about moving towards the future and understanding like I gotta step up and be a leader in this incarnation. Okay, so where are we at? So next is Gemini North Node. So Gemini North Node, or wait, I already said that. What am I talking about? I'm tripping. Virgo. Hold on. So last two. Wait, so we did Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. No, we didn't do Leo. What am I talking about? So Little mistake there, my bad. So Leo. Okay, so Leo North Node. That's so yeah. This is the I'm Leo South Node. So Leo North Node, Aquarius South Node. A lot of times they have issues with they need to learn to step up in this lifetime to take, I guess what you could say, like they have so many lifetimes often, like it's so easy for them to give, right? And it can be difficult for them to be in the spotlight, to allow themselves to be admired, right? And also a lot of times South Node in Aquarius, North Node in Leo, there can be issues around because the North Node Leo rules the heart. It's a passion. So sometimes when with this axis, we're talking about creative self-expression, but we're also talking about taking risks. We're talking about finding your authentic passions that comes through self-expression. So sometimes Aquarius South Node can be a little bit cold. It can be sort of like the recluse, right? Aquarius, the water bearer. But also at the same time, it can be the opposite. It can be someone who feels like they need the support of their peers, who feels like they need to be, involved in the group. So it's really like following the heart chakra, right? And it's not an easy placement because a lot of times, yeah, it's like one of those. You've seen this, like a lot of times they have relied on the group, right? Or like I said, like Aquarius is interesting like that. It rules friends, but can also be like the one who's been kind of road less traveled, solo. So, anyways, what is Leo North Node? Leo North Node is courage. It's creativity, right? It's enthusiasm. It's being able to make people laugh. It's being able to make people smile even during tough times. So, my experience with this is that there sometimes can be, sometimes life gives them opportunities to shine, but it's difficult for them. Like they don't feel like they deserve it, or they something comes up around being seen is the right term. So, I think that there can sometimes also be a little bit of anxiety around I have to be like this, I have to be like that, right? So Leo is really just like that fearless leader, like I'm going to be how I'm going to be because it reflects me, right? And I think that also Leo is very sensitive, and it says how it feels. And sometimes Aquarius South Nodes can kind of relinquish or move away from how they truly feel. And Leo speaks from the heart, right? So it's like really about like finding the courage to speak, your truth. I think also people with this can have trouble with relationships as well, because of that potentially cold energy of Aquarius, right? Which can be very aloof and unattached. So, so Leo is very much that warm energy. It's linked to the 5th house, which is like romantic and passionate. So we understand this. The soul is really trying to express these energies in this lifetime, and like I said, following the heart rather than and it can also be like heart over intellect, and learning to take risks. So through those risks, you kind of like the Sag one, you develop that individuality, and I've seen a lot of people with this have low or just confidence issues, right? But life gives them the ability to get better at this, right? That's one of the big things. And the more that you start to embrace that individuality and have boundaries around that, the more, people, the world and the universe starts to embrace that. More opportunities come your way. So I think having like a creative, just like Leo's also the inner child. So it's like being able to kind of be in touch with that energy is very important too. So yeah, creative pursuits can be huge for that. And yeah, just like overall, Leo is it's like what truly brings you joy, right? Not because of because of what society says or anything. It's like what truly brings you passion and joy. Leos are very, very good at that, and then following that. Okay, then we switch it over to North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo. That's the one I have. So that is moving away from the me to the we, right? So basically, a lot of times, it obviously depends on the whole chart, as I always say, but a lot of times people with this, they struggle because, it's tough because there can be past lives of greatness, like whether obviously not everyone with a South Node in Leo is maybe like a superstar, but like where they were beloved, where they were the center of attention. And they can be very, very talented people, right? And they can come into this lifetime and feel like whenever they're trying to do something for the sake of ego, the universe pushes them back. But when they do something, but it's not that they can't be great, right? It's not that they can't do great things in the outer world and they have to just only focus on Aquarian service and humanitarianism. It's like, no, but it's like what they're doing should have a hue of that, right? So, and a lot of times, like the South Node Leo people, they don't, they like to be differentiated, right? So it's like they don't really like the idea of being part of a community. They're more lone wolves in that sense, right? Because they feel like being part of a community kind of takes their shine away. But the truth is that when they allow themselves to connect with people from all walks of life, they find that it actually increases their shine in some mysterious way, right? So there can be this like superiority complex that can block the Leo South Node, Aquarius North Node from, achieving their full potential. If they like in the back of their head think like, oh, I'm better than this person, or I'm better, I'm too good for this, too good for that, right? And it could be very unconscious. So, yeah, I would say, what else would I say about this one? I think like also Leo rules like the high society. So being able to see someone as a human, regardless of their social status, right? Being able to just like, it's like seeing the individual for who they are on the inside, and maybe even like Aquarius rules kind of, like I said, I always call it the road less traveled. So, being able to have, more authentic connections, right? Connections with people that, might not be the typical people, especially when you're younger, because a lot of South Node and Leos, obviously, like everyone born the same year is the same South Node, but it's common. So it's very interesting, like if you think about like high school classes and stuff like that, but it's common for people to have friends that are a certain way. Maybe not saying that they're all basing their friendships when they're younger off like people that are cool or look good or whatever, but as they get older, they it's about really finding out who you truly authentically connect with. So yeah, and overall, it's about selflessness. Like that's the biggest word, right? From the we to the me, or me to the we. So being able to take all that Leo energy, that creativity, that playfulness, that generosity, passion, all that, and bring it towards, a goal, like towards a cause. Like, I could speak from my example briefly. When I ever, I always had like a great talent for music, like natural, but the universe always kind of blocked me in that realm. And it was because it was more, yes, it was like my soul was speaking, but it was also ego, right? So astrology, I'm still able to make videos and do stuff on like this and Instagram, which is very Leo, and I'm a Leo rising. But I'm doing it for the greater good. Does that make sense? So it's like it's not for ego. It's like to help people. So that's kind of a good example. And yeah, just really, really focusing on the collective, and knowing that every human you meet, like, this is what's so difficult, I think, for Leo risings, is that I've said it before, but it's like a lot of times the greatest people you meet in this lifetime will be people that at first you're likely not assuming like, oh, this person's going to be an important person in my life, right? They could be all different ages, all different cultural backgrounds. They could not, and I wouldn't necessarily say the same thing about like romance. I think more Aquarius friends, right? Like people that you're working with, people that you're growing with. So it's really just about kind of like a lot of times like Leo South nodes, they need to like let that ego down, right? So like, and it's not, and oftentimes it does come from lifetimes where, I mean, imagine like Justin Bieber reincarnated, random person I thought of, like, imagine if he reincarnated in like the soul of like just an average person, or I guess he's not the best, who's like a very like boastful celebrity. I don't know, nothing comes to my head. Donald T, yeah. I mean, like, just imagine, right? Like if he was incarnated in just some random person, some random kid from I don't know where, right? Think about it. So it's like that's and he's Leo rising, right? Regulus rising. So that's a good example of it. So yeah, it's kind of the soul has these memories, but it's like you have to understand that this is not your mission. I mean, yes, it could be. There are a lot of North Node and Aquarius celebrities and people who do great things, but it's like, on some level, the lesson is different, right? And of course, you have to look at the whole chart. There's a lot more. Like, for example, who was it? There's North Node and Aquarius. I was looking at some famous people with the chart, and I noticed a lot of times, like I saw a few times where like Uranus, the ruling planet, or you could use Saturn, depending on what system, was like on the midheaven or very well placed. And I was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Anyways, so you learn a lot with this by your connections with other people, right? And it takes a level of open-mindedness. It takes a level of kind of like I said, like just letting go, right? Letting go of needing to be a certain way. So and you see people with this will become very miserable if they're not helping people, and that goes for people in general, but especially this nodal axis. Like, so a lot of people, I've seen people who get older with this, even if their job isn't in like a helping profession, they might volunteer, like really care about a certain humanitarian cause, right? Making the world a better place is very in line with what they're doing. So, yeah. Okay, last ones. Damn, 4, 4, 4, 4. Okay, so now we're going to go into Virgo and Pisces. So Virgo North Node. So if you're a Virgo North Node, I've seen this a lot. My friend has this. Pisces South Node. This one is very, very interesting because I've seen a lot of people with this who, let me get comfortable, who struggle when it comes to boundaries and when it comes to creating, like they're very talented, very creative, very spiritual, innately spiritual and mystical, right? But then when it comes to, let me get this a little bit closer, sorry. Yeah, but then when it comes to like the very basics of life, right? I'm talking about believing in yourself. Like let's say, you have a project, you want to get somewhere, right? You want to create something, you want to start a business. It takes work and it takes a continuous self-belief. So I've seen South Node and Pisces people, I'm trying to like bring them all into my head. But the trend I see is that it's very easy for them, for something to knock them off their purpose, right? Like they can be really, really motivated, and then one shortcoming hits them, and then boom, they give up. And they go into this like self-victim, this mode of feeling bad for themselves or feeling like, the world doesn't like them. And it could also, because Neptune ruling the South Node, it can make, I think that South Node and Pisces people are like the most Pisces people. Like my friend, he has South Node and Pisces. I'm a Pisces sun and Mercury. He's way more Pisces than me. I'll tell you that. So it's really about focusing on reality, right? In this lifetime and taking all those creative, artistic, spiritual talents and turning them into something. Because in past lives, you can be sure that, you can imagine yourself with this placement, that there were moments or there were times where you had this amazing idea, right? Or like I was saying, this business or whatever it is, but your lack of self-belief took you away from accomplishing it. So you will have opportunities in this lifetime to make something of yourself in this way, right? To use what you've accumulated in past lives to get you, like astrology is a great example, right? Like it could be the person that has great talent, but isn't very disciplined, gives up on themselves too easily. So it's like, how are you able to truly, Virgo is tuning into like the to-do lists. Like I just have my agenda open right now. It's like, in order to make something happen, you have to be organized, right? Now, people who are very Virgo know that like they can be like too OCD with everything, right? But like it's also Virgo people are very successful. They're very, very analytical. They're thinking about every detail. And yeah, when it's extreme, we'll talk about the next one, they worry too much. And Pisces South Node can be like too worryless, like where they don't worry enough, right? So they need to take some of that Virgo energy of like, okay, I do need to like think about this more. I do need to like be less in the clouds and more in my head. There you go. Because it's like Neptune, clouds, Virgo, Mercury in my head. So the life lessons, yeah, like being present in the here and now. Like I said, Neptune, Pisces, South, and people like when like they can just be in their daydreams. They can be in solitude. They can be in addictions, right? So escapism, like not want to be dealing with the reality. So they're being asked to go deal with the reality, right? And it goes back. So I said this in, I think it was it the Capricorn Cancer one? Yeah. Like when you make plans, when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, it affects your psyche. It affects your self-esteem, like on a deep level, right? So only like your words are magic, right? Mercury, Virgo. Your words are literally magic. So it's like, use them the right way. Don't like, and I'm saying that with like negative self-talk, right? And this goes for both sides. Negative self-talk, but also, don't say you're going to do something if you're not going to do it, because that's just going to reinforce in your psyche this cycle, this tendency of saying you're going to do something and then not doing it, right? So, understanding your talent, but understanding that, you have to offer it in a very practical way. Like you have to figure out a pragmatic, like something you can touch, whether it's a business or, a service, like if it was astrology, it'd be like, creating the Instagram, creating the posts, doing it over time. Virgo, Earth, right? Any Earth North node, you're meant to be doing something over a period of time. Oh, like it's like you're not going to get that instant success, right? So, and yeah, like I said before, and this goes back to the one with Libra too, is the boundaries things. A lot of times South Node and Pisces people are down to kind of, like, let's say they do have a goal, right? And it's a very goal-oriented North Node, right? Virgo is very goal-oriented because these people are not used, they're past life gypsies. Like, they just kind of go with the flow. And they can have identity issues too. So when you have an identity issue and the idea of who, or low self-esteem, when you have that, it can be really difficult, right? Like when your idea of who you are is not super solid, then you can allow other people to impinge on your boundaries. So you really have to learn, base your life on high spiritual and moral values, and then enforce your boundaries based off of those, right? Now, another thing with this is that South Node and Pisces a lot of times abandon their physical body, the sleep, the nutrition, right? The exercise, the fresh air, sun, all these things that kind of like sixth house Virgo, right? Like, people I love Virgo, by the way. My mom's a Virgo, like people give Virgo crap for being like, oh, they're carrying so much. I have a friend, I think she's 40 something, 47. I don't know what her age is, but she's probably the best look. Like she's a Virgo. She's probably the best looking. She's probably watching this. Shout out Jen. She's probably the best looking, late 40 or whatever age she is, person I've ever seen. One of them, right? And it's like she's a Virgo, right? And a lot of that is because she talks about the skincare stuff she does and all this and that. So yeah, so just really like those are very, very important things. So yeah, it's like taking that connection with the divine and giving that service in a way that's different than what you've done. And finding that grit and that strength, and taking that spirituality that you have innately and applying it to the world, applying it to what you care about, and not just like lock every time something bad happens, locking yourself in your room and just falling off. So understand that you can't escape reality anymore, right? Your soul wants you to stay in touch with physical reality in this lifetime. So it's like a lot of times these people will run away from their problems. And a lot of times they'll self-sabotage. They'll create their own problems. They'll have fear of success. They'll fail to plan, and then they'll wonder why. So imagine like a cycle where it's like they don't make good plans, or they kind of like fall into this cycle of everything I've been talking about, and then it's stuff that could have easily been avoided, right? But then because of that, they have this cycle, then they get really down on themselves, like, oh, I suck. But really, it's like, no, you don't suck. It's like you just didn't follow the steps to not suck, So it's like sometimes they can be unconsciously addicted to that feeling of feeling bad for themselves. Okay, enough about that. So finally, we'll end with my computer. It's literally on its last. It's so annoying. I have like only 1.5 of my USBs that are working, so I have no charger in, and it's at, so I might have to speed through this one because I've been going for a while. It's at 18%, but I don't know, like it could die earlier because I have my mic and my camera. But anyways, North Node, okay, so we just did North Node and Pisces, South Node Virgo. So this one's very interesting. I'm gonna have to go fast with this one, I'm sorry, but this one is very much about, so if you've been, South Node Virgo could be someone who's karmically too in their head, right? Too much with the planning, too much with the overly worrying. And it's like about finding God, like not finding God, but like learning to trust the universe, right? Learning to trust that everything will be okay. And to think back on your life, on how many times you were so worried about this one thing happening or not happening, and then, or this one thing like going a certain way, and then everything ended up being okay, right? So North Node in Pisces is extremely like, it's very, very spiritual. Like it's kind of like this person is trying to find some type of enlightenment on some level, right? But they can be very, very stuck in the material realm with a past life tendency to only believe what they can see, right? Not what they can. So it's like another placement where you're going from, just all that obsession with Mercury logic to being able to like use your intuition more, right? Being overly analytical, and then it's like building these very rigid structures around yourself that then kind of define your reality like way too much, right? Like they keep you away from experiencing the oneness with God and with everything. So, and also they can be very, very hard on themselves, and they can be very, very very perfectionist and very, very good, but then still get really down on themselves. So it's about, practicing self-compassion and empathy, but it's not just towards you, it's towards yourself and other people, right? Because it's like a lot of times that gets projected to other people. So yeah, listening to the intuition, learning to, to kind of like hear that out, as I said, and then, yeah, just like unconditional acceptance of who you are and not having to always be perfect and all that stuff, as I just said. So what else could I say? Yeah, just like I think this one really requires like meditation and like journaling and just different spiritual, different like kind of initiatory spiritual practices like that can kind of get you out of that very potentially critical nature. Also, like the overworking is very, very common. So yeah, it's like there's a need to kind of get out of that mundane reality. And it doesn't mean that you can't work, like, you have, like, it's just like having some type of spiritual outlet or create, some type of outlet. Because a lot of times with Virgo, this type of energy, there can be psychosomatic issues, right? So, yeah. What else? Yeah, I mean, it's just like there's like that obsession with structure and order, and it can kind of hold one back from the magic of life that comes when you just let go and you're just spontaneous. And you're just like, all right, like Virgo sometimes tries to control. So, and that all comes, from like when you have, and it's all things that can be worked on, right? Like when you've, like in Virgo, it's like you can use that ability, that analytical ability. Okay, I'm going to read spiritual books, right? And I'm going to practice with my brain to, to look at things like from a different approach, right? And more nonlinear approach, because some things can only be understood from, a nonlinear way of thinking. I know for myself, like, and for other people, like I have like the logical and the linear and the nonlinear, so I understand what it's like for both, but a lot of people only they have more so one, right? So I think psychotherapy could be huge, like anything that like learning about spirituality, psychology, meditation, and just also diving into your more artistic side, like music and stuff like that. But I think what can happen with this is like there's also a need to set boundaries with anyone with this even with North Node in Pisces, right? Because it's like if you're headed towards a more spiritual place, you might have to set boundaries with people along those lines. Yeah, so just like self-forgiveness is huge. And like I always say, the house placement matters a ton. The aspects to it matter a ton. So you definitely want to get a full reading if you want to really understand this all the way. But and I have a lot of availability. So if you go to my website, JessInnesonAstrology.com, I have everything on sale right now, whether you want a live natal chart reading or usually what I do, which is my brain. I just improvised all of this, so my brain is shot. It's a full moon also. But yeah, usually what I do is the recorded reading, and then we have a follow-up, right? So those are all on my website. It should be linked below. Let me know what your North Node sign is and South Node sign and how you relate to what I said and what you would add, what you'd take away. All right, I got to end this so I don't lose this hour of content. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Ciao.